Diabetes is the first answer. Looks like we're recorded. So everybody make sure you accept that so you can stay in the meeting. And again, my name is Isaac Floyd. I am a food scientist, a nutrition professor at Valencia College, and corporate chef. As I mentioned, I've done work with clients from California all the way to Paris, France, professional athletes, Fortune 500 companies, people just trying to live a healthier life. And we're talking about functional foods today. So we got some activity in the chat, which is awesome. But can you guys tell me some diseases, right? Ailments. And they don't have to be those more common ones. Any type of ailment that you guys can think of that we know, and not just us, but research shows, right? The World Health Organization, research not only here in America, but around the world has linked to what we eat. Kayla says cancer. Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of different types of cancer. And we know there's a, relatively small percentage that is genetic, but for the most part, more often than not, it is lifestyle related, these illnesses that we're discussing. Absolutely. Someone says CAD. Absolutely. Coronary artery disease, heart disease, obesity, someone says. Absolutely. And obesity in some cases can be kind of a controversial answer, meaning some people say, well, being overweight is not, an illness, but a lot of, governing bodies, health organizations will classify it as an illness because of some of the effects and long-term consequences associated, and we'll talk more about that. But you guys are awesome. Thank you guys for that interaction. So absolutely. What I like to emphasize with my work and my mission as a chef, as a scientist, is that we can close the gap between this, delicious food and healthy food. A lot of us, I know people in my family growing up, there was always this kind of semblance or this seemingly, choice between eating healthy and eating delicious food. Oh, I'm on a diet, so and the rhetoric is that I have to suffer for 2 weeks and then I'm going to be skinny and then I'm going to go back to eat how I want to eat. We have this idea as Americans, a lot of people, that we have to choose between delicious food, mouthwatering, just enjoying our food and being healthy. And that's not the case. That's absolutely not the case. And I always say, for my clients, my students, anyone who I work with, I'm never going to tell you to eat a boiled chicken breast and some canned green beans, because you would never, ever catch me eating that, ever in my life, ever. So we're gonna show you guys how to make some really easy, really delicious food while still, keeping health in mind. All right, so shifting a little bit to functional foods. Can we get the PowerPoint up, please? And remember, guys, this is going to be interactive. So we came to kick it, we came to chill, we came to talk, have some nice back and forth dialogue, and that's what we're going to do today. So please, please, please get those fingers, stretch your fingers, because we're gonna be talking, we're going to be having some dialogue here. This is all of our event, and I want you guys to certainly benefit from it. All right, and we will talk as well about prizes. So we do have a couple prizes for you guys, and I won't spoil it. I'll talk a little bit more about the prizes at the end. But I'll say now, we do have 2 Amazon gift cards, all right? And we have some runner-up prizes as well, and that'll be a special surprise. So we have 2 $50 Amazon gift cards for our people that are most active on social media. And I'll tell you guys now. So I want you guys to, throughout the presentation, if you find a slide that's valuable, if you find a point that's valuable, if something looks delicious, if you get excited, anything that makes you feel good, I want you to tweet it. Tweet it or post it on Instagram with the hashtag Valencia Nutrition. So hashtag Valencia Nutrition, and just kind of share, what the biggest point is. Spread the love, spread the knowledge. And at the end, our co-hosts will go through the tweets and they'll pick the best tweet. So whether it be the most informative, the most impactful tweet. So really make sure you are intentional and creative with your tweet, because our co-hosts will decide who wins the prizes. And again, we have 2 first place prizes, 2 $50 Amazon gift cards, and we have 3 runner-up prizes as well. So make sure you guys are tweeting, posting on Instagram, hashtag Valencia Nutrition, all right? And for your chance to win a prize. Who doesn't love Amazon? I know Amazon has been getting all of my money since I've been on lockdown, since I've been on quarantine. Can anybody else relate? And we have the hashtag here in the chat. All right, so let's get into it. So the secrets of functional food. And I say secrets because for many people, it may kind of feel like a secret because it's like, well, what are we talking about when we talk about functional food? Even more interestingly, a lot of the retort and the arguments that I get from people is that, well, healthy eating, you know, this type of food is so expensive. This type of food is, you know, not convenient. I don't have time to cook. And these are excuses. All right, I'm going to tell you right now, those are absolutely excuses. And what I found upon further investigation, especially when I work with people for a longer period of time, is I realized, you know, if you put a head of cabbage, you know, some chicken breast, some salmon, some parsley, some lemon juice, some peppers, some seasonings, a lot of people might not know what to do with it, you know, or they may not know how to make it in a healthy way. And quite frankly, that self-efficacy, right? And anybody who has worked with me or, you know, follows my work or attended the last presentation, you know, I'm big on nutrition self-efficacy. So nutritional self-efficacy is your ability to come in the kitchen and just make it happen. You come in the kitchen and say, I have a taste for this. I'm gonna do this, 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 and this, and make me a nice, healthy meal. So, you know, we know self-efficacy is really just the belief or the feeling that you can do something and do it effectively. So if I have high self-efficacy with soccer, oh, I know I can get on that field and I can break some ankles. I can, you know, MVP. So that nutritional self-efficacy, having that efficacy in the kitchen, not only being willing to step in the kitchen, but having that feeling that you can, you know, make it work and make it happen and make healthy food. And that's what this series is all about. That's what we're working on today, is building that nutritional self-efficacy, again, in a very easy way. And I'm here to help you do that. So with that said, let's get into it. So about me, my name is Isaac Floyd. As I mentioned, I am a food scientist. So I've worked in, you know, super high-tech laboratories, analyzing plant-based proteins, gluten alternatives, you know, analyzing a lot of different food products, dairy alternatives. But my favorite thing to do, my favorite type of work is working with people and helping people live healthier lives and understand food better, and how understanding their relationship with food and how they can really eat their way to their goals, right? And we'll talk about foods. We'll talk about how foods can improve our cognitive state. They can improve our focus, because at the end of the day, we all want to be great. We all want to be successful. We all want to be, you know, we all want to win. So, you know, we'll talk about the foods that can really propel us towards that. So I love this research topic because, again, to me, it implements or it introduces a feeling of control. And I'm a type A person. I'm a control freak. So I love to have control over my life. But we all want control. We all want to be able to say, well, it's not so much of a mystery or ominous feeling whether or not I'll be successful, or whether or not I will reach my goal weight, or whether or not I will look how I want to look. You know, I like that feeling of not if, but when or how. Well, I can do this if I do step 1, 2, and 3. I love that feeling. And that's what functional foods tells me. And we'll talk more about that. And what's important to remember is that food is not just food. You know, there's often this perceived difference, I feel, between nutrition and food. We talk about nutrition, and a lot of times we can get kind of caught up in the calories and the protein and the, you know, carbohydrates and that type of discussion. But a lot of people don't know how to translate, even if they learn it. I've had clients that they can tell me all about protein, carbs, fat, but when it comes to actually implementing it on their plate, that's where the disconnect happens. The disconnect between the science and the plate. And it's important to remember that food is not just food. It is this very important compound that, as we mentioned just now, has a huge influence on our life, disease risk, etc. So, all right, so I want you guys to tell me, what are your body goals? And don't restrict it. I know somebody's gonna say they want to lose weight, which I understand. Somebody's gonna say they want to build muscle. I understand that too, but think outside the box. You can say that, but think about your body in general and what you want to achieve when it comes to your body, this body that you've been given, you know, when it comes to 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, career goals, anything, you know, focus, you know, intelligence, anything. What are your body goals? And while you guys answer that, I'm going to go ahead and get started with this recipe. So I'm so excited. We have some really delicious stuff on our menu today. And if anybody, you guys should have all received the shopping list, and some of you may be cooking along with me. So make sure you have everything prepped, because we're going to, you know, we're just going to throw it together. I have everything pre-measured because this is a quick and easy recipe, right? So the first thing we're going to make is chicken marsala. So I actually got this idea from a lunch we had recently. I hadn't had really good chicken marsala in a while. And one of my colleagues, we had lunch for her birthday at Cafe Moreno, not too far from here. And that was the first time I had really good chicken marsala in a long time. So I said, we're doing that for the next demo. And actually, it's our co-host, Kristen, which you guys will hear from soon, Professor Kristen. So thank her for this awesome recipe. So we're gonna start with our chicken breast, guys. We have our chicken breast here, which, you know, a normal filet, it's nice and thawed, right? Normal skinless, boneless, skinless chicken breast. So we're gonna start by placing it in a freezer bag. And we're actually going to, and you guys always remember, always wash your hands when you know, between handling your raw meats. So we have our ingredients here, and we have our chicken breast. We're actually going to start by flattening our chicken breast, because if we use the whole chicken breast, we're going to get this huge chicken nugget, and we don't want that. We want what I like to call a chicken steak. So we're going to flatten it out. I'm actually going to show you guys what this looks like. So if you guys can highlight my second camera, if you can, maybe can add the highlight. You guys can maybe add the highlight to my second camera, in addition to, and it's the iPhone. Let me make sure that it's plugged up and everything. Oh, I have to hit continue. That's my fault. Okay, so it should work now. Boom. Okay. All right. Are we highlighted? Yes, it looks like so. Can everyone see my my mallet and my chicken? Can everyone see here? I can't, but I'm assuming you guys can.
Professor Floyd, we still see the PowerPoint presentation on the big screen.
Yeah, we're seeing it on the small screen. There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Yeah, if you guys maybe highlight the PowerPoint and highlight just the second camera, or all three, doesn't matter, as long as people can see. And it's this one, it should say, I guess it says Isaac Floyd.
We are seeing that on the primary
You can
screen.
see the mallet now. We'll go back to the PowerPoint when we continue the presentation.
Okay, sure. So I see some people answering here. I see a really good one. My body goes to feel more energized and feel stronger. That's actually some really common feedback. So this concept of energy, feeling more energized, feeling more awake, right? Some people say feeling young. It's reminiscent of, oh, when I was young, I had so much energy. And now that I'm X years old, I don't have any more energy. So that is so important. All right. All right, so we're just gonna flatten this out. You wanna be kind of careful, but you'll see as you flatten it, the chicken will kind of spread out. And that's the point here, is to really spread this chicken out until what I like to call a steak, a chicken steak. This is the fun part for me, because I'm a child at heart.
I think it actually pulled up your one of your other screens to the main one because your volume is on.
No, we're good. I have them on both.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so now we're gonna take our ingredients, and if you guys have the shopping list, you have all this ready. But our main two ingredients that will be important here are some type of flour. I don't use the traditional flour. I always use more whole food type of flours, like an almond flour, which is really just ground almonds. You know, you can use your favorite flour, but I typically go for more of like an almond flour. You can use like an arrowroot flour, something like that. But we're going to combine our flour. And we're going to add our Parmesan cheese to this mix. And this is going to serve as the breading. All right, and it's going to be part cheese. So you can imagine that cheese is going to give us a nice, flavorful, savory, crispy breading to our chicken. And then we're going to add our seasoning mix. So I gave you guys a really good starter pack on the list. You know, some lemon pepper, some chipotle, black pepper, but you can really get creative here. You can do your seasoning blends. I do opt for more low sodium seasoning blends like Ms. Dash and, you know, actual spices, because our seasoning blends can be very, very high in sodium. And it's important to know that, you know, when we talk about sodium, it's not the sodium that really we love. We love flavor, and sodium is kind of a cheap and easy way to get flavor, which is why so many people and places and restaurants and businesses do it. But when it comes to the herbs, the spices, That's what we love. That's what we want. So we want to maximize that. And I'm going to show you guys a few of my favorite little kitchen gadgets. I have here my electric whisk, which I'm going to use to just mix this really quick. It makes the process just a lot quicker. All right. So now we're going to take our chicken steak. We're going to remove it from our cutting board. It's okay if it falls apart a little. It'll shrink, so that's perfectly fine. And we're going to just give it a nice breading. And this is beautiful. And we'll talk about some of the ingredients that we use and why they are a better alternative and a bit more functional than traditional ingredients. So can anyone tell me actually, why could like an almond flour be better or more functional than white flour, bleached white flour?
Keith, we're seeing a question in the Q&A about the screen not being able to see the cooking demo part.
Oh, you guys can't see the cutting board? Yeah, I can't see it either. I see myself on the big screen.
We have both up right now. It's side by side so they can see you and the meal.
Okay, well, we'll make it work. So with this, so we have our chicken steak, what I like to call chicken steak, and we have some olive oil. So this is a nice spray. It's a spritzer, so it doesn't have all the aerosol. You literally can refill it. I love these bottles, and it gives it a nice light spray. It can actually be pretty generous too, because 5 sprays is 10 calories, which is like a fraction, maybe 1/10 of a serving, less than 1/10 of a serving. So you can be pretty generous with this. And we're going to actually put our chicken steak in our air fryer. I always layer my air fryer, well, depending on what I'm cooking, but when I cook meat, I layer my air fryer with a small piece of foil, a small square, easy cleanup. And we're going to actually place our chicken steak in our air fryer. And we're actually going to use our spray. Again, you know, 5 sprays is 1/10 of a serving, so we can be a little generous. And we're going to spray the outside, which will help us to get a nice crispy finish to our chicken. All right, and I'm going to actually flip it here and do the same on this side. All right, and we're going to put in the air fryer. About 350 for 8 minutes. If you guys attended my last one, you know that I recommend everyone have one of these. This is a food thermometer. You can get a food thermometer for $10, $15 at your Walmart, Target, your favorite store. Food thermometers are important not only for safety, right? Because we know, consuming undercooked food can really increase your risk for foodborne illness. So the food thermometer takes that guesswork out. But what is even more important, in my opinion, or perhaps just as important, is quality. So anybody who's ever had overcooked chicken breast knows what I'm talking about. No one likes tough chicken breast that's hard to swallow, right? This helps you to prevent that because the safe temperature for chicken is 165 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you stick this in the thickest part of the chicken and it says 165, you can take it off the heat. And that will make sure that your chicken is really cooked kind of to a minimum, safely, but to a minimum, AKA not overcooking it, because overcooking it will give us that tough finish. It'll squeeze all the moisture out and give us that tough dry chicken that we don't like. So 165 is really that golden spot. All right, and because we flatten it, it'll cook pretty quickly. So as that cooks, we'll put that to the side. And I'll show you guys our sauce. We're gonna do a nice marsala sauce. And if you guys should be able to see my—
Looks like we have an answer here on the almond flour. We have a couple of people saying that the benefits, the almond flour is healthier than the white flour due to its benefits and free of chemicals. Another that has more high density than bleached flour, has more nutrients, nutrient dense.
Okay, I hear nutrients, I hear density, I hear some pretty interesting words here. Absolutely, right? And you do want to look at that food label because hopefully it is just almonds, you know, ground dried almonds, which is almond flour. Hopefully there are not too many or any preservatives added. That's certainly ideal. And when it comes to density and nutrient density specifically, absolutely. So we know that almonds have vitamin E. We know they have fiber, they have protein. So it really serves more of a purpose to our body than starch, because quite frankly, in the average diet, we get plenty of starch. There's no shortage on starch in most people's diet. So adding extra flour to the diet is not ideal in many cases, especially depending on your goals. So if you're somebody that's trying to lose weight, control your weight, minimize body fat, adding flour, especially unnecessarily, can be just as fattening or, you know, have similar effects as adding excess sugar. You know, flour is metabolized very quickly by the body. And if we do not need, you know, that fuel, if we're not, you know, haven't earned it, I always say we need to earn our starch, because if you haven't earned it, it's going to be metabolized as fat, right? If you have a high metabolism where you just worked out, you know, that flour, that simple, you know, sugar can be, you know, utilized. But for many people, if you eat a large meal, which we're about to eat a relatively large meal, excess simple starch like flour is more than likely for many people going to be stored as fat. All right, and it is also gluten-free. I see someone said that in the chat as well. Awesome. So can we actually pull the PowerPoint back up?
So Chef Isaac, one of the questions, I don't know if you addressed this because I'm typing, but where can they find almond flour?
You can find almond flour at Walmart, Whole Foods. Really, I think they're selling it almost anywhere. You might could even find it at Target, but most markets, most, I guess, mainstream markets, you can find it. Absolutely. Absolutely. You can actually make it yourself, but it's a little bit challenging. You actually have to have a very high power blender, which we're going to use one here, like a Vitamix or something like that. And you also have to have a good temperature control, because if it heats up too much, it gets sticky. So that's another video for another day. All right, so we got some people sharing our body goals. So let's go to the next slide. So as we mentioned, when it comes to body goals, we can have a range of answers here. We can come from focus. I know for me, one of my big ones is focus and attention. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a scientist, I'm a dad, I'm a professor, you know, there's always something going on. So I need my brain to be in optimal shape. And when we talk about energy, right, that in many cases can, you know, the brain can be involved in that. When we talk about alertness and just feeling energized and having energy, the brain plays a role. Body fat is a common goal, controlling or losing body fat. Gaining muscle is important, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. And we already talked about energy levels. All right, so we know that, you know, it can range from weight to heart health to muscle mass to brain health, gut health, which we'll talk more about. What about emotions? What about being happy? What about being in love? I want to hear what you guys have to say about that. You know, what do you think? What do you think food plays a role? First of all, do you think food plays a role in mood, emotion, you know, happiness, right? Or not? And if you do believe so, then how? How can food play a role in happiness, in, you know, mood and mental health, right? Even talking about anxiety, depression, you know, which are on the rise. Anxiety and depression are higher now in developed countries. And I use the term developed loosely, and we'll talk later about why. But anxiety and depression are higher now in developed countries than, you know, really ever before measurably. All right. And I see some answers here. Someone said absolutely. Someone said it affects your chemical balance. Those are some very good answers, and we'll certainly talk more about why. All right, bone health over time. So, you know, it's important to think of life as an investment. You know, I think a lot of people, the rhetoric from interacting with people is that a lot of us think, well, we have time in our 20s and in our 30s to kind of do what we want, to not, you know, to kind of eat what we want. We have that wiggle room because, oh, we're not going to gain weight. We're not going to do this. It's not till maybe I'm 40 or 50 that I really have to start worrying. But the reality is that when it comes to bone health, it is really a lifelong process. We're constantly breaking down and remodeling our bone tissue. You know, we may have all probably heard the term, you know, we get a new skeleton every 10 years. And that's true. Our bodies are constantly remodeling our bone structure. So when it comes to being 40, 50, 60, 70, and maybe we fall, the risk of falling and breaking a hip, which at that age, if anybody's ever had an older person, relative that breaks a hip, we know it's not as easy to heal when you're older. So we don't want to be breaking things and be immobile and be wheelchair bound. But that risk is directly associated with bone health, which we know over time, having adequate calcium, adequate protein, adequate calories, right? Phosphorus, all these functional compounds in the diet can be very, very critical. All right. And if we can maybe add the skillet, I'm going to go ahead and check the chicken really quick. All right. All right. Okay, so I can see the skillet. Are you able to do the skillet in the PowerPoint? Maybe all three, or just the skillet in the PowerPoint even? All right. Can everyone see the skillet? Yeah, you definitely want to flip the chicken in the air fryer once the top is a little bit crispy. So mine needed a little bit more time, but yeah, you definitely want to flip it halfway through for both sides to be nice and crispy. Absolutely. Good question. Very good question. All right, cool. So we're going to do our sauce now. So our sauce includes a little bit of olive oil. Make sure we don't have our heat too high. A little bit of olive oil. We're going to do a little bit of garlic. Our soy sauce. Lemon juice. Some mushrooms. And our marsala wine, absolutely, can't forget that. So this is cooking wine. It's definitely different from our drinking wine, if you will. Our cooking wine is low in alcohol, and it's important to know that, if you're cooking for your kids, most of the alcohol boils out. Most of the alcohol simmers out and you're left with just the flavor. So marsala wine leaves you with a wonderful, very savory flavor that's really amazing. So we're going to go ahead and add some of that, and you can really add as much as you want. And you can tell really by the smell once the alcohol boils out. So if you smell it and you smell the alcohol, then you need to cook it longer. But if you just smell the flavor, then you're in really good shape. So we're going to go ahead and cook our sauce that way.
Chef
So
Isaac.
one quick question here, Isaac, while you're cooking up. The oils that you use when you're cooking, we had a question about avocado versus olive oil. And, nutritionally speaking, there's not a huge difference since they're both high in unsaturated fat, especially with the monounsaturated fats. Is there a difference with like smoking point or anything like that?
Absolutely. Avocado oil definitely has a little bit higher of a smoking point. So if you are, cooking foods at a higher temperature or, sauteing, right? A light saute. We have a lot of liquid here, so olive oil is good. We're making kind of a sauce, but if you're just doing more of a stir fry where you just have your oil and your, ingredients, your vegetables, then a higher smoke point oil like avocado oil, grapeseed oil would be better. But as Kristen mentioned, the unsaturated fat ratio is really the most important thing you want to look at. Unsaturated fats are healthy fats, especially our omega-6, but omega-6 and omega-3 are unsaturated fat, and those are what we really want to look for. We want to really minimize saturated fat intake, and we want to maximize, not maximize, but we want most of our fat to come from unsaturated fat. All right. And Carmen says, if a person doesn't drink dairy, milk, and most times almond, does it make them in danger of issues with bones? Oh, that's a very good question. Can somebody actually answer that question, and I'll be right back.
Sure. Let me read the question. I was reading another question at the same time. If a person doesn't drink dairy milk, and most time almond, soy is a danger of issue with bones. So what you want to look for with the alternative sources that are not dairy products is that they fortify with several nutrients because they're not naturally found in almond milk, oat milk, and soy milk. Out of the options, soy milk has the highest level of protein. Almond is a very low protein, as is oat milk. You also want to look for the addition of, many of them will add extra protein, and then you want to look for the addition of calcium, vitamin A, and vitamin D, and that will help provide the nutrients that are necessary. Vitamin A and D are necessary, as well as calcium, for good bone health. I see another question about olive oil and allergies, and that's a really good question. I happen to have a soy allergy, and so I have the same problem with soy oils. So for most people, and this is not every person, but for most people, when you have an allergy, it is the protein that you're allergic to. And so the oils are supposed to be refined enough that there are no proteins in there. So it should be okay. However, some people still do have some reactions to those oils, but it's not very common. Any other questions? Let's see. Oil.
There's a question about coconut oil, and is it good to cook with?
Right. So coconut oil is a saturated fat. So it is typically not the best alternative for an oil as say olive oil or avocado oil that are very high in the monounsaturated fatty acids. Olive oil and avocado are both high in those. We also have some of your other oils like sunflower oil, regular vegetable oils, canola oil that are high in polyunsaturated fatty acids, which are also really super good for you. As a matter of fact, maybe even just a tick better than the monounsaturated fats. Coconut oil, if it is the only source or the main source of your saturated fat in your diet, it's fine. So if you're a vegetarian and the majority of your fat, your saturated fat is coming from coconut, that would be an okay alternative. But for the most part, we like you to decrease the amount of saturated fat in your diet.
I would actually like, can I add a note about cooking with coconut oil? Little personal perspective here. A few years ago, I usually don't use coconut oil much because of the saturated fat. But a couple of years ago, I decided to make a rump cake. And yes, I made cake. Don't laugh at that. And I decided just to do an experiment and use the coconut oil in it instead of the other oil that it called for. And it stuck to the pan so bad I had to throw the whole cake away. So just not put the nutrition stuff aside, just looking at it from a cooking perspective, I found that did not work very well for me. So since then, I have not made anything with coconut oil.
Thank you, guys. Some very interesting topics, and oil is definitely something that we can all relate to. That's an important decision, and it obviously definitely depends on what we're making. So we have our sauce going now. We talked about our body goals, so let's move on with the PowerPoint as our sauce simmers. So what are your overall life goals? Now, this is important. Can you guys share, overall life goals, whether it be entrepreneurship, whether it be family related, intellectual goals, awards you want to win, maybe you want to be on TV. What are your biggest life goals? And everyone just say maybe one or two that is like your most important life goal in the chat. Let me see here. We have our sauce simmering, the alcohol cooking out. All right. And we'll check on our chicken a little bit. Someone said to be successful. Sydney said to be successful in life. I think we can all relate that. Fontella said to complete my children's book. Very interesting. Awesome. 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 So guys, keep typing in your goals and let's move to the next. All right, so when we talk about these bigger life goals, right, whether they be starting a family, making money, which we all can relate to. I mean, I love to do, anonymous attendee said do God's will. Hey, awesome. And I love to do the work that I do. I love to help people, all right? But we also got to make a living, right? We have to make a living with what we do, right? We all want to do that. Intellectual goals, intelligence, right? Getting degrees, right? Completing that degree, finishing that degree, staying focused, all right? Career trajectory, growing in your career. We all probably can relate to each of those goals, or most of them at least. All right, so what does functional food mean? So when we talk about functional food, what does that mean? So when we talk about functional food, we mean foods that have potential benefits beyond basic nutrition. So we're talking about foods that have potentially health and therapeutic benefits. So aside from just, you know, eating enough calories, which in America, calories are not the issue for most people. Of course, we have impoverished communities and certain people that may experience malnutrition, right? Or calorie malnutrition, but for most people, getting the calories is not the issue. It's, you know, some of the other things which we'll talk about. And aside from that, when we talk about health and therapeutic benefits, right? Mental health, you know, disease risk, you know, of course we know long-term, right? But even some of the more short-term things which we'll talk about. All right, what makes food functional? So when we talk about functional, what is the criteria? And it really comes down to these bioactive compounds. So bioactive compounds are compounds most often found in plants that provide health benefits beyond basic nutrition. All right. And when we say bioactive, bio means what? Somebody in the chat. And our sauce is coming along wonderfully. What does bio mean? The prefix bio. It means life, right? It means life. All right. And active meaning activity. So active compounds that come from, that are alive or that come from live foods. So the key here is these live foods. So this concept of bioactivity really separates our fresh foods, right? And we always talk about whole foods, but let's really talk about why we recommend whole foods. We know that we should be consuming more whole foods. And I don't mean the store, right? I mean actual foods, whole foods, vegetables, fruits, even fresh meat, right? Fresh fish. Some fresh chicken here and there is totally fine. You know, any meat really in moderation and making sure that it's fresh, right? We're not talking about our very processed lunch meat and our deli meats that can sit on the shelves for sometimes months. We're talking about fresh food with these bioactive compounds. All right, and we'll talk more about that. And make sure you guys are tweeting hashtag Valencia Nutrition on Twitter, Instagram. You can take screenshots, you can do whatever you want, but make sure you guys are tweeting because we will use that to determine our winners for our two $50 Amazon gift cards and our 3 runners up. So when it comes to basic versus functional foods, we know carbohydrates, fat, and protein, they're essential, right? But they are basic, meaning most of us have easy access and we know how to get those. We know we can get carbs from a lot of foods. We can get fat from a lot of foods, good or bad, and we can get protein from a lot of foods, right? But when we talk about functional and essential, you know, some of the ingredients that we may not get enough of that we really should focus more on, we're talking about vitamins and minerals. We're talking about fiber, omega fatty acids. And I'm not talking about supplements here. We'll talk more about supplements later, but we're talking about food, you know, your plate. Because what's important to realize about supplements is this same concept of bioactive compounds becomes important. Research shows that supplements, you know, are not as bioactive as food, and we'll talk more about that later. And some other functional components include antioxidants, which we've all heard about, prebiotics, probiotics, anthocyanins, beta carotene, stanols, vitamin C, vitamin E, etc. All right, these are some foods that, you know, some of these are vitamins, but some of them are not, you know, quote unquote vitamins and minerals, but they are recognized as very important compounds. And the list certainly does go on. All right, so bioactive compounds, you know, are molecules that can present their, and let me move my window here. And it looks like our chicken is ready to look at. Are molecules that can present therapeutic potential, as we mentioned. All right. And these bioactive compounds, when we talk about food, can it help with overweight, obesity, disease prevention, high blood pressure, cancer, disease? Absolutely. We've already discussed that thoroughly. Duh, we know that. That's common knowledge. We've known that for decades now. But what about depression, anxiety, mental illness, intelligence, right? Cognitive development. So when we talk about kids, you know, going through the school system, right? Cognitive development, you know, the development of the brain from the time you're born to the time you're an adult, and your capacity now as an adult, as a young adult, and all throughout life to make money, to make relationships, you know, to do these more executive and advanced cognitive functions, right? To run a business, to do all these things that we want to do, to write a book from start to finish. Cognitive development is a process. It's a step-by-step process. And we'll talk about some of the research behind functional foods and cognitive development. All right. anti-aging, stress management, etc. So can functional foods help with these? You know, we've discussed all of these different concepts. Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about the functional food spectrum. So we know that, we get food all the way from basic nutrition to functional nutrition. And I'm gonna go ahead and check on our chicken. Can our co-host go ahead and tackle these next couple slides?
Okay, well, I'll just chime in here. So we were talking about the functional spectrum. And so, when we look at the spectrum, most of us want to fall somewhere on the higher end, right, towards the functional nutrition. But the idea behind this is that it's not all or nothing. And I feel like in nutrition, this is the way we look at nutrition. It's like there's good, there's bad. And everything has to fall into one of those categories. But we don't talk about this idea of moderation and all the other good things that can come up. So let's go ahead and switch to the next. So basic nutrition, if you think about with the terms of basic nutrition, the more processed type of food, I would say, is something that we are probably most familiar with, especially as college students. And so when I say processed foods, we do a lot of eating out, a lot of refined grains, packaged foods. Not that all packaged are bad. We certainly have some good options in the frozen section. But these are more of your basic types of food. So go ahead and switch to the next one. And then we have in the center there, we've got your more fresh whole meats, fish and animal and poultry sources. And then in the functional foods, what do we see there? There, as we would think, going back to the idea of life, this is your plant-based. So this is where we're going to see whole, fresh, plant-based. So when I say whole foods, I'm not talking about the grocery store. I'm talking about the whole fresh foods that you get. I've heard people mention shopping on the outside of the grocery store. But when you're looking at this whole idea of functional spectrum, you're looking at going from the processed foods to your meat sources, to functional being the plant-based, whole grain, very nutrient dense types of foods. And again, this is not that it's all or nothing, but that we are moving in the direction towards more of your functional foods. And I'm not trying to say that you have to become a vegetarian. We do talk a lot about decreasing the amount of animal-based foods for a variety of reasons, not just for the loss of saturated fat, but also because this is a problem with sustainability because of the CO2 emissions, especially from cows. They have
Absolutely. And it's important to know, as we make decisions on a regular basis, we can make decisions anywhere on the spectrum, right? It's not a matter of good versus bad, but how functional is this food? How functional is this meal? All right. And we're going to go ahead and make our sauce really quick. So what I have here now is my one of my favorite gadgets is my Vitamix blender, very high power blender. So we're going to use this to make our sauce. And we're going to add a little bit of water, a little bit of soy sauce, all right? And we're gonna add just a small amount of chickpeas. So anyone who's ever made sauce, who's ever had, Chinese food or any type of saucy food at a restaurant, usually they use cornstarch or they use white flour, right, as their sauce thickener. But here we're using chickpeas. And the key here is that you wanna use a good ratio of liquid to your chickpeas, and you wanna have a very, very high power blender. So we're going to go ahead and blend that on high. And so I don't subject you guys to that. We'll wait just a second, but can we go to the next slide? All right, so really quick, let's compare the diet of the most malnourished countries in the world versus Americans. All right, so some of the most malnourished countries in the world, when we see on TV, right, we've all seen the commercials, feed the children, these countries that, you know, are areas of countries in most cases, specific areas where malnutrition is rampant. People are not eating, they're, you know, hungry, a really big problem. Usually the issue here is a lack of protein, sometimes a lack of total calories, and, you know, most often, if you're lacking total calories, you're probably lacking vitamins, minerals, and specific deficiencies. While in America, we know we have an issue of excess calories, excess sodium, sugar, fat from processed foods, but we see a commonality here. We see vitamins and mineral deficiencies occurring in both, you know, these developing and developed countries like America. So what's the common element? Malnutrition, first of all, right? And we know malnutrition is not just not having enough calories, right? Withering away and being skinny. No, we know that malnutrition just means bad nutrition. And the issue here is a lack of a biodiverse diet. So this lack of biodiversity still, in both cases, will lead to a lack of certain vitamins and minerals, which of course leads to issues associated with that. All right, so Dr. Francesco Branco, the director of nutrition for the World Health Organization, says that bad nutrition is the main cause of death and disease in the world. So of all the treatments, all the different diseases, all the reasons that people, you know, die and, you know, are sick, he says that bad nutrition is the main cause, which a lot of research supports that. We know that now to be, you know, pretty much true. All right, so what about supplements, right? I get this question a lot. What about supplements? Can I consume supplements? We talked a little bit about bioactivity. So the concept of supplements versus whole foods is really similar to the concept of processed foods versus whole foods. I mean, supplements are highly processed, right? Do they contain salt and sugar and fat? No, typically not, but they are highly processed. And when we talk about bioactivity, you know, ingredients that are alive and that feed our body and that fuel our body and that are active, right? Bioactive compounds are enzymes that when they get in our body, they do work, right? I always say, think of your body as a factory. The food we eat is like, you know, our employees. We're choosing our employees. Are they getting in your body and doing work, or are they getting in there and sitting down? Are they, you know, storing your food as fat versus, you know, providing you energy? So that concept of bioactivity is important to understand. And another important point is that supplements are not regulated by the FDA. So they can be consumed at high toxic levels. They can be easily purchased, you know, right? Even though, you know, consuming excess vitamin D, excess vitamin E, vitamin A can be deadly in some cases, right? Excess iron, a lot of our minerals can be absolutely deadly. Children have died from, you know, toxicity, taking too many vitamins, you know. Even though that's the case, they can be bought over the counter. There's no really regulation on there in many cases. And supplements is another conversation, but this is a nice overview. And it's important to note that there is a clinical application, right? In some disease states, in some cases, supplements can be very helpful. But for most people, you do want to make sure that you have good advice, a healthcare professional that, you know, is aware of what you're doing and that it is properly regulated. All right, so what's the point? Advantages of functional food. We talked about quite a few, right? That, you know, the food we eat, right? Our gut is this core of our body. It runs down the center. And when we consume food, you know, the nutrients, they spread and they act on different tissues. They act on our brain, they act on our muscles. They can help us to maintain health. They can help to maintain an immune system, bone health, muscle health over the years. It can be the difference between, you know, being 70 years old with dementia or being fresh and still being able to, you know, read and talk with your family and remember and not forget things. Food can be the difference, all right? So it's important to realize that. Money, you know, mental health, you know, intellectual capacity as kids grow. There was a study done in Sierra Leone where they were trying to get to the bottom and really improve their country, improve their, you know, crime, improve, you know, the businesses, increase STEM, increase invention, stimulate the economy. And there was, the results said that, you know, nutritional intervention, improving the nutrition of the kids would help them to have the proper cognitive development over time to do all these things. Because, you know, we know people that are less intelligent, you know, less mental capacity, that leads to different outcomes in life. That leads to different ability to graduate college, different ability to make, you know, X amount of money, to have that upward mobility through social class. So if you were born in a certain social class, to be able to climb and move to the next, which for many of us is the goal, right? Quite frankly. So nutrition is related to that. We know that now. We know that kids that, you know, have a poorer diet, you know, have typically poorer outcomes when it comes to standardized test scores, college admission, intellectual capacity throughout life. So this is so important, not only for us, but for those of us with families or with kids or planning to have kids, for them as well. All right, next slide. And I see some questions about the chickpeas. We're gonna get to that. All right, what is a biodiverse diet? And I'm going to, let's talk about it. And actually, Kristen, can you cover this? I'm gonna mute and do our chickpea so that it doesn't overpower the microphone, and I'll let you handle that.
Sure. So biodiverse diet, we're looking at, of course, the foods that are whole, source fresh of your foods. So that's why it says live foods. So that's really what we're looking in. They have our bioactive components in it. And that's why we're all looking at plant source foods. And there are actually many bioactive components in foods that are not nutrients. And we refer to these as phytochemicals. And it's a really interesting area to look at because we have not identified all the phytochemicals yet. It's really fascinating that there are hundreds and hundreds of phytochemicals out there that we don't even know about yet, but have this bioactive ability to help us prevent and sometimes treat diseases. Most of the research has been done on prevention of cancer. There's some on osteoporosis, heart disease, and it's just really an amazing thing. So the idea is that in order for us to get all of these compounds, these bioactive available things that are in the foods, is we're not going to eat one type of food. And we always get on these like kicks, right? As a media and a country, we get on these kicks like, what's the newest and latest superfood? You know, that's the one we're going to eat. But you're never going to get all of the vitamins and minerals, all of the fiber, all of the bioactive components from phytochemicals in one single food, ever. And not even one type of food. So we want to really focus on getting a good variety of our different foods so that we're not eating all the same. And that's going to give us the best diversity possible. Was there
Absolutely.
anything you need to cover?
We have actually have a question. We have a question from Cheryl about vitamin D and iron prescribed by the doctor due to deficiency. I can go ahead and answer that question. Vitamin D is a very safe supplement for most people. And in fact, that's probably one of the supplements I would recommend for most people, especially if you don't get out and get some sunshine quite often. Iron is a little more tricky because it is much more likely to be toxic. And as a general rule, unless your doctor prescribes the iron for iron deficiency, I would not be taking iron supplements. There's actually a lot of people out there that do have iron, what we call hemochromatosis, which is an iron overload disease. So women tend to be the ones that are iron deficient, sometimes young children. Again, that your iron levels should be checked though before you start taking a supplement for something like that. Vitamin D, I would say, is pretty safe for most people to take. We do have an epidemic of iron deficiency really all over the world, but including here in the US. So if you take a daily supplement of that, that would probably be fine. If you have a little bit of iron, back to the iron, if you have a little bit in a multivitamin, you'll typically find that in women's multivitamins. That's probably okay for most people, but just taking straight out iron, especially in high doses, definitely not recommended unless it's prescribed by your doctor.
Great advice. Very good advice. Thank you. Very good question, guys. Please keep them coming, and we'll have more time for questions at the end. So we have here our sauce, right? And we're adding it to our skillet. So we've evaporated most of that alcohol, most of that marsala wine, and we're left with really just the flavor. And we're going to give that a nice stir and a nice little simmer. So you have a slightly thickened sauce, and it'll thicken a little bit more as it interacts with that heat. And you see here, it looks delicious. And our chicken is looking great too. So if everyone has flipped their chicken and it looks good, it's to their proper temperature, you can go ahead and put that to the side. So we will let this simmer over here. And we're gonna get started on our barbecue ranch grown-up salad. So when we talk about salads, this is a pretty contentious and common topic. I tend to come at people's necks if I see people eating their iceberg lettuce or those more simple basic salads. It's important that we do get these colors, we get this variety, right? This biodiversity in our salads. And we know that heat, right? Cooking our vegetables, it's not always necessary. And if we overcook them, a lot of vitamins, especially B vitamins and some of our fat soluble vitamins as well, are heat sensitive, meaning if we overcook them, we lose some of those vitamins. So cooking them, eating some food raw and cooking them, what I say, to a minimum, meaning, it's still crunchy, it's hot, it's still crunchy, and maybe you've cooked it a little bit, is the best method. So we're gonna start with a little bit of our red kale, which I love. I mean, just take a look at it. It's really just beautiful. I mean, absolutely beautiful. Red, green, purple, a lot of colors going on here. And we know that different colors, when we talk about bioactivity and functionality, different colors are indicative of different compounds, different benefits. So the purple, the red, when we talk about having a colorful plate, we don't just say it to be cute. We say it for a reason. So I usually just fold my leaves upon my stem, cut the leaves off of the stem, and set our stems to the side for now. So we're just folding it, chopping it nice and easy. And we can always use the stems for other purposes, all right? And we're just gonna take a nice handful, a nice tight handful. Hopefully you guys can see me here chopping. A nice tight handful. We're just gonna cut into nice bite-sized pieces, nice and easy. And this is some very good flavor. Very wonderful flavor here. All right, we have a few different greens here. We also have some chard, some red chard. So we've seen Swiss chard, rainbow chard, etc. This is one of the most nutrient-dense vegetables by a lot of standards, right? And we see here another very beautiful, piece of produce. So we're gonna take just a couple leaves here. And just how we cut our kale, we're gonna do the same thing here. Fold it along the stem, chop the leaves off. And don't be afraid of these leaves. Now, I know a lot of people, they're like, what? Look like some leaves off of a tree. No, they're actually very tender, not as tough as, really not as tough as kale, not as tough as collard greens. I mean, a really nice tender leaf. Once you get it into your food, you really got something good going on. So a nice tight handful, again. And be sure to always cut away from your body. Be very careful. We always use our thumb pointing towards the tip, which maximizes our control, all right? Our sauce is simmering here. And same thing with our second leaf. Nice tight handful. You don't have to work too hard. Just some nice bite-sized pieces here. Certainly don't have to work too hard. All right, and you can really get creative here. I mean, whatever you really want. I'm gonna do some baby spinach as well. And baby spinach will add some of that tenderness. So, these baby spinach is probably the most tender of all the leaves that we'll be using. And we're just gonna take them. You don't have to cut them, but some people like their food to be a little more palatable, a little more bite-sized, which in this case is totally fine. All right. Especially if we're planning on eating it soon. We want to also make sure that we cut our vegetables fresh if possible, relatively fresh, kind of the day of, even the day before. But we don't want to cut our vegetables and leave them in the fridge too long because oxygen exposure can also deactivate certain vitamins as well. So we don't want to, reduce the surface area too early because by chopping, we are reducing the surface area and expose our vegetables to oxygen too soon because that can diminish some of our content. But generally speaking, we're doing, the right thing here. So we have our greens going on. We have, we can add anything, right? You can add bell peppers, you can add tomatoes. We're definitely gonna do some sliced tomatoes here. And I've actually never done this before, but I always see it done. A really quick way you can slice your tomatoes is to take a nice clean cutting board, put them here, and cut. and it works like a charm. Half tomatoes, nice and quick. So have those. We'll do a few more. What are you guys' favorite salad toppings? Anybody want to share? Favorite things to put on your salad? Oh, that is wonderful. I have to start doing this more often. What were the other green leaves? We use red kale, we use red chard, and we use baby spinach. So those were our leaves, our wonderful leaves so far. All right, so we're gonna put that to the side. We're gonna add some beans. You can do black beans, kidney beans, chickpeas, black-eyed peas, whatever you like. I see somebody said artichoke hearts, Kalamata olives, hearts of palm. That sounds like a good salad. Olive oil, apple cider vinegar, lime, absolutely. So we're gonna add some beans here. And I'm doing red beans. Again, you can do whatever beans you like. Apple, sliced apple adds a little bit of sweetness.
I see beets as well. That sounds like a good one.
Beets, oh, absolutely. Beets are another very functional food, very nutrient dense, a lot of pigment, a lot of anthocyanin, a lot of nutrients in beets, absolutely. So with our apple, we're just gonna core it.
Oh, seeds, those are also a good idea. I like that crunch idea. That might even be a good alternative for those who like the croutons.
Absolutely, nice crunch. Definitely a more functional crunch, for sure. Always cutting away from the body. We've cut our apple in little thin wedges, and now we're just gonna cut along the side. Some of y'all might be turning your head sideways, but if anybody's ever had apple in a nice salad, then you already know what's up.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that.
Absolutely. We won't do too much. We'll do about 3/4 of our apple here.
Got some walnuts here, avocados, radishes, another good crunchy one.
Absolutely.
A mention of tahini with the dressing, but we haven't seen what your dressing is going to be yet.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do something special with the dressing, y'all. Something very special. So we got our apples here, and again, whatever you want. I'm gonna show you guys a very good salad ingredient that I actually discovered at a restaurant. I saw they had shaved Brussels sprouts on their salad, and I was like, wow, that sounds really weird. So I have to try it, and it was so good. And you know, a lot of people may not like Brussels sprouts because of that bitter flavor that they can tend to have. But it's important to know that when you cook them, when you separate them, halve them, and in this case, when you shred them, the oxygen, you know, really does diffuse the oxygen and the heat, especially, but in this case, the oxygen, it diffuses a lot of that flavor. So you're not going to get that bitter, you know, pungent flavor that you may expect. So we're going to shave some of these Brussels sprouts into our salad using a cheese grater.
I see a lot of people saying that the screen is out. Keith, I'm wondering if that is maybe because either they're not in speaker view or maybe it is hidden behind another window. Is that possible?
Yes, we have both screens up right now.
Yeah, I'm seeing both on mine. That's strange.
Yeah, so see if maybe it's behind one of your other, minimize the screen you're looking at and see if you get the view that has the multiple other screen.
Hey, Brussels sprouts. Make sure you guys are tweeting. This would be a good one to tweet because I know a lot of people are gonna be like, shaved Brussels sprouts, but y'all can tell them that we did it, and then you can also tell them how good it tastes for those of you guys who are gonna try it. And yeah, so got our shaved Brussels sprouts going. All right. What else? Someone said walnuts. I love me some walnuts. So another good source of healthy fat, a lot of unsaturated fat, omega-6 fatty acids, etc. So we're gonna squeeze, give them a nice little crunch.
Some eggs in here, kind of going into that middle of the functional food scale.
Absolutely. Kristen said the middle. That's a good point because we know, are they super nutrient dense? No, but do they contain biotin, some vitamins and minerals, absolutely. Protein, right? A very good, relatively cheap source of protein, absolutely, absolutely. So we'll do a little cheese in here too. So I'm actually lactose intolerant, but if you get cheese that is aged, I believe it's more than 6 months or older, the process of the aging actually kills, the enzymes kill most of the lactose. So you can use your dairy-free cheeses, which I've experimented with those as well, but this aged white cheddar is one of my favorites. I don't do dairy and cheese very often at all, but cheese can provide some pretty good calcium, can have some benefits. So if you are lactose intolerant, there are options out there. So I'm gonna add a little bit of this white cheddar, totally optional. Some people I know are very adamant about being dairy-free, which I'm all for it. But this step is totally optional. So do a little bit of cheese here. Actually. And for our dressing, we're doing a barbecue ranch dressing. So you want to take simply your favorite barbecue sauce, your favorite ranch dressing, and we're gonna make it happen. Now, be mindful, sauces can certainly contain, you know, sometimes very high amounts of sugar, sodium, fat, etc. So you want to be mindful of what you choose, but also of how much you use, because we're spreading this sauce, even though it can contain these things, you know, we're spreading it over a huge salad. So portion wise, if we use a few tablespoons over the, you know, being cut by all these vegetables and nutrients is totally fine. And we talk about even sugar, fat, you know, consuming it by itself is one thing, but to consume it with fiber, with the healthy fats, it'll help our body to digest it slower so that we're not, you know, spiking our blood sugar. We're not, you know, so easily depositing that fat. So don't be afraid of the sauce. Don't be afraid of the flavor. In fact, one of my mantras is season your vegetables like you season your meat. A lot of us don't like vegetables because we think they're plain, they're this, they're that. But no, if you can get some flavor on those vegetables, it makes them a lot more desirable. So this is actually a vegan ranch. So it's a little bit higher in some omega fatty acids, lower in calories than traditional ranch. So we're gonna use a little bit, and actually, let's give it a good shake first. So we're gonna get those ingredients nice and spread out first.
Burning a few extra calories there, Chef Isaac?
Oh, absolutely. A little sweat, nothing wrong with working up a little sweat. We're gonna do a little bit of ranch, not too much, you know, just enough for a nice glaze on our salad. We already got a lot of flavor going on in here. And a little barbecue sauce. Again, not too much. And I'm telling y'all, I know somebody out there is like, oh, I love ranch, because I love ranch. Some people hate it, most people love it. Love me some ranch. You can also do barbecue, really your favorite dressing here, but this barbecue ranch, once I discovered it, oh, I ate it every day for probably a couple weeks. And I'm so excited for a new batch. All right. So is this right here? Oh yeah, this is it. This is it. And you can add diced peppers, you can add cucumbers, whatever you want, but this is gonna do the job. Lots of strong flavors in here. And again, just nice and glazed. I'm not gonna eat it now because once I start, I'm not gonna be able to stop. So I'll wait till we have the rest of our food done. All right, so let's jump into our zucchini pesto quickly because we don't have a whole lot of time. And actually, we might cut that off. Maybe we'll do a video of our zucchini pesto because this alone right here, this is plenty of food. So you have the ingredients for the zucchini pesto, and we may drop a video of a recipe to help you guys with that. But we don't want to go too far over time this time. Hopefully you guys have been tweeting. I'm going to ask my co-host to go ahead and start looking at those tweets. And just use your judgment. Whoever had the best tweet, most educational, most impactful, the one that really just speaks to you the most, go ahead and pick 2 first place winners and 3 runner-ups.
We better get some more tweets going in there, folks, because I don't see enough.
Uh-oh, don't make it easy for the winner.
I know, yeah, don't make it easy on me. Come on, make it hard.
Yeah, make it hard. Get some, got 2 $50 Amazon gift cards for first place, and we got 3 runner-up prizes as well. All right, and we'll actually go ahead and finish our presentation. That'll give you guys a little bit more content. So let's go ahead and keep moving. I'm actually gonna grab our chicken really quick. But let's pull up that presentation. All right, so we talked about biodiversity.
We have some people that said they did on Instagram. I do not have my Instagram account up. I don't have an Instagram. Does that make me old?
No, that does not make you old.
I was watching Twitter. I have one person who doesn't have Twitter. She has, that person has Instagram. So let me go.
Okay. Our other co-host April, she has Instagram?
Oh.
No, I'm old too. No Instagram for me.
Okay, well that's fine. So get your tweets going, guys. If you post on Instagram, go ahead and repost it on Twitter so that you can
I don't have any kids at home either to have them look for me.
Yeah, so just go ahead and tweet hashtag Valencia Nutrition. If you guys could maybe drop it in the chat if you haven't. Go ahead and keep posting. So let's go ahead and keep moving. We do have our chicken here. It's still nice and hot from our air fryer. It really is delicious, nice and crunchy, tender, moist. I mean, really on point. So we can go ahead and put it in the skillet here with our sauce. And see our sauce is nice and thickened. We're just gonna smother our chicken in this nice marsala sauce. And again, we get a little bit of sodium from that soy sauce. We can also use low sodium soy sauce, but not very much. Aside from our soy sauce, we don't have any sodium components in this dish, right? We use a lot of spices, a lot of seasonings, and we have some delicious chicken marsala here. So nice and smothered. Let's go ahead and plate this too so we can finish our presentation. All right, next slide, please. All right, so when it comes to biodiverse diets for maximum functionality, we talked about therapeutic benefits, bioactive compounds. Kristen talked about a sustainable food system, so that's very important. When we talk about sustainability, not only for the environment, but for our communities, right? For our local communities, for the economic ecosystem of our neighborhood, of our city, right? We want our cities to survive, so supporting those farmers markets can help not only getting you the freshest, most nutritious produce, but also supporting that local ecosystem, supporting those people in your community, making sure that you maintain and you live in a strong community, right? Absolutely. So key takeaways, we talked about what is functional food. This food that has potential health benefits, and we can definitely do some content moving forward on more specific functional benefits like mental health, like focus, intellect, cognitive development, right? Healthy aging. We can definitely talk about that. In fact, we're going to send out a survey pretty soon, and we want you guys to give us some good feedback. So please make sure you complete that survey. All right, and bioactive compounds, right? When it comes to making these decisions, hopefully this makes sense to everyone. Hopefully we know now that it's not about, shopping at Whole Foods or, buying expensive food. It's about just buying normal foods. Whether you go to Whole Foods or, Fancy Fruit, which is a real, very cheap, reasonably priced, fresh store we have here in my neighborhood, but any of those stores where you have fresh produce, it doesn't necessarily have to be organic, right? Organic is definitely a good choice if you can afford it and when it makes sense, but we're just talking about, generally speaking, whole foods, fresh foods, less processed foods, right? Anything that comes on the shelf that can sit on the shelf for a long time, not anything, but for the most part, it's not a good decision, right? We should choose fresh foods more often. Choose fresh foods much, much more often. There are certain shelf-stable foods like oatmeal, like rice, that I will always have those staples. But generally speaking, right, the ready-made meals, the highly processed foods, we should really cut out, right? Research shows, the World Health Organization shows, these are behind the disease, the rampant disease in America. And we should invest in opportunities like this, right? Cooking classes where we can learn how to maximize whole foods in our diet. Not only, from a delicious standpoint or from a functional health standpoint, but also from a deliciousness standpoint. All right, so how can you reap the benefits of biodiverse diet? Simply put, eating foods that are alive like vegetables or that were alive not too long ago, fresh meats, right? Fresh fish, fresh salmon, or flash frozen even, right? Not those processed meats, the hot dogs, the lunch meats that can sit on the shelves for X amount of months, sometimes longer. That is the key, biodiversity for the most part, all right? And does anyone have any questions? We'll talk a little bit about tools. Actually, let's talk about that really quick. So what tools have you found most helpful in managing your personal nutrition? So you guys, as we've talked about all of this, we've talked about functional foods. What tools have you found when it comes to making healthy choices? Because again, you know, hopefully we all realize now it's not all about expenses. It's not all about, you know, healthy eating is too expensive. That's not really always the case, right? If you compare fresh food to the dollar menu, then maybe, but the dollar menu that's apples and oranges, right? We're not comparing fresh food to the dollar menu, but generally speaking, you know, fresh eating doesn't have to be expensive. So with that said, you know, the strategy, the tool, eating healthy, making it easy, making it convenient. I want to ask you guys, go ahead and put in the chat, what tools have you found, you know, that are most helpful in managing your personal nutrition?
So if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in while they're kind of typing away, Isaac. You mentioned
Absolutely.
Cost. And I thought, you know, one thing that always stood out to me when it comes to cost is that your whole fresh foods provide most of the time more fiber and protein or plant-based protein that provides more sustained appetite, so that you're not going to get hungry as often. And so I think that's a really good important thing to consider, because when you're eating a lot of the refined grains and the processed foods, when they refine it, they actually do remove some of the protein and almost all of the fiber. And so you lose that satiety, and you won't feel full as long as you normally do when you have some really good high fiber sources that are from your fresh foods, legumes, produce like fresh fruits and vegetables. So, so just keep that in mind when you're considering cost, is how quick you're going to be hungry after eating a single hamburger at McDonald's compared to how full you will feel if you eat a meal like Chef Isaac just prepared you.
Listen, y'all don't even understand. I'm about to get into this meal right here, but very good point. We talk about satiety, satisfaction, even when we talk about convenience, being busy, right? No one wants to eat and then have to eat again in a couple hours. And a lot of these foods, as we talked about how they, you know, do interact with the body, they can be digested, refined, processed foods. They can be digested very rapidly, which, you know, can lead to weight gain, more short-term weight gain, versus our whole foods. They're digested more slowly. They supply our bodies nutrients at a rate that is more proper and more natural, and, you know, respectful to how our body uses energy. So if you guys can spotlight our plate camera, this is the final product, and it is looking, I mean, it looks great. It just looks great. So we have our chicken marsala. We have let me go ahead and just take this phone off so I can really give y'all the TV view. I mean, really just excellent. We got our chicken crispy smothered with our sauce. We have our salad. We got a little bit of cheese in there, the barbecue, the ranch. And in fact, I'm gonna go ahead and do a little bit of cheese on top. So let me just bow out really quick. You guys can switch the spotlight. Right.
So I see here we have some good suggestions with what has helped them with their own foods. And I see meal prep, which I thought was a really good idea. A lot of people prepare ahead of time. That helps them.
Absolutely.
A variety of healthy resources, being able to locate healthy alternatives. And that's really nice when you plan ahead. You know you're going to be somewhere and you need to have some alternative plans. A lot of people will follow Instagram folks that have suggestions for healthy meals. I know a lot of my students use apps on their phones that help with that as well.
Absolutely. Meal prep is definitely critical, right? We know we're busy. Most of you guys are college students, faculty, professors. I mean, we are some of the busiest people in the world, if you ask me. So meal prep can definitely be helpful in eliminating some of those choices, because there's not many things worse than already being hungry, and now having to figure out, you know, what you're going to eat, whether it's healthy or not, because we got to eat, right? But meal prep can eliminate some of those stressful, short-term and sometimes bad decisions. So can we switch back to the food camera? Oh my gosh, guys. So we got our salad, a little cheese, little walnuts on top. And I'm talking about a healthy meal, but I'm talking about flavor, guys. I mean, I get into a situation a lot. I don't know if it's Florida or the area or what, but you know, I was just get to thinking about where I can go out to eat. And I'm just like, who has food that's better than something that I can make at home? Now that's the challenge. And, you know, I find places sometimes, but it's hard, guys. It's hard because this type of meal, it hits the spot. It really does. All right. So that concludes the cooking demo. And actually, I believe, we have a couple more slides in the PowerPoint. Do we have any questions?
Whenever you're ready for me, I will be happy to announce the winners as I see them.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So we'll just ask you guys again, what tools have you guys found helpful? So as we've discussed this, especially, you know, healthy eating, I know people have said, you know, Instagram, meal prep, etc. What tools have you found most helpful? So if you guys can go ahead and put those in the chat, anything that hasn't already been said. Anything that you have found helpful in your journey of health.
So I see here that Cheryl mentioned that even as a vegetarian, that food looks really good. And I thought, you know, what would be a really good substitute there for the chicken on for a vegetarian meal?
Absolutely. You can do tofu, you know,
Yeah.
which a lot of people prefer tofu. It is soy-based and it has good complete protein. You can do beans. I've done actually marsala beans, marsala chickpeas. People love them. We know beans, chickpeas, especially black beans, have very high amounts of protein. So you can do like the same type of sauce, but over chickpeas, which will actually be a lot easier. Those are the two protein substitutes I can think of. I know a lot of people, you know, like portobello as a substitute for chicken. While portobello can definitely have that, portobello mushroom, can definitely have that fleshiness and that nice texture that can mimic chicken. It's not always, you know, sufficient in protein as, you know, when compared to chicken. So it's important if you are vegan, when you substitute these recipes, that you're not only thinking about texture and flavor, but you're also thinking about protein, B12, some of these things that vegans can certainly get, absolutely, but it does sometimes take a little more planning and intentionality than a diet that includes meat. So yes, beans, tofu, portobello, a combination. Maybe you do a little portobello with some chickpeas on the side. It actually sounds good. We're actually planning to do a plant-based demo as well, so please keep your eyes peeled. It'll be a little later on in the year, but please keep your eyes peeled for our emails and our invitations because we're going to get into some plant-based eating. Very good question. All right, any more questions, any more feedback, tools you have found most helpful? And actually, can we go to the next slide really quick? All right, I want you guys to share in the chat, how could these tools be better? So when we talk about tools that, you know, help you with your nutrition, right? Instagram, you know, meal prep programs, meal prep, you know, influencers, videos, even this presentation, if you found this to be helpful with your healthy eating journey and there's something that could be better about it or anything, how could these tools be made better? You know, how could they be made better for you so that they work, you want to use them, they're motivating, and most of all, that they're effective. They get you from point A to point B. So I want you guys to share in the chat, how can these tools be better? All right. And do we have any questions, Kristen?
So no, I just have the answers ready, or the announcements of winners whenever you're ready.
Absolutely. You guys keep posting your answers, and I think this might be the last slide. Can we? Yeah, go ahead. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay.
So yeah, hopefully you guys have been tweeting. What's it looking like, Kristen?
So it looks really good. It looks like everyone enjoyed it. We have a lot of pictures of the foods that you made and compliments on everything that they learned. I believe that I think the #1 winner is going to be Tina, who was cooking.
Tina!
She submitted a picture of her ingredients as she was cooking along with you. So,
oh, Tina, you cooked with me, Tina. We might have to bring Tina on to the video really quick.
And then we had Valentina, who not only tweeted multiple times, but she got her little sister, I don't know if it was younger or older, to watch the webinar along with her. So kudos to Valentina.
Oh,
So those are the
oh man, something about those Tinas, Tina and Valentina. Something about those
Tina
Tinas.
and Valentina.
Excellent job, congrats. So
Okay.
Tina and Valentina, those are our 2 first places.
Yeah, so we are going to
All right.
need to get in touch with you two so that we can send you your gift cards. And then we have 3 runner-ups, and I will say that I thought Ingrid had a really funny response quote from about the lactose intolerance, and that Josh, if she just waits for the age her chief for 6 months, it won't kill her so bad. So I thought that was funny. So kudos to you, Ingrid. Beardsley had the most tweets. Good job. And Touche, I think, was next in line. So those are our 3 runner-ups, Ingrid, Touche, and Beardsley. So we will need
excellent
and addresses. If you could privately message those to, I just forgot our email address, Isaac.
I believe it's valencianutrition@gmail.com, but please just make sure you get us your email. So hopefully you guys are still here. Private message us, send us your full mailing address. Don't forget any apartment numbers. Let me just double check. You can private message, or you can send it to our email, which is hopefully I can find it too. I believe it's valencianutrition@gmail.com, but I'm not exactly sure, to be honest, in this moment. And it's not pulling up on my. Yeah, go ahead and private message us. Are you guys here? Each of our winners, Tina, Valentina, are you guys still in the chat?
Yeah, we have Tina, Valentina, Ingrid, Touche, and Beardsley.
Okay, awesome. So it sounds like
those are the ones that we need. I would not know about Beardsley and Touche because those are not first names.
All right. Well, and if you have,
however, one of them I know is your student. So.
Okay, awesome. Well, if you have their names, we can find them. We have all their registration information as well, so we should have no problem.
Well, I'm not sure about Touche.
Okay. So yeah, guys, make sure if you won, please, hopefully you're still here, make sure you private message us so you can get your gifts. Our Amazon gift cards, we may be able to get them to you by email, but Tina and Valentina, you both won a $50 Amazon gift card. And our other 3 winners, you win a National Nutrition Month bag. So it is National Nutrition Month, and you guys win our National Nutrition Month gift bag full of nice, awesome little goodies. All right. Any more questions? I mean, we have reached the end, so we're ending on time, which is excellent. Anything else from our co-hosts? Anything else from our guests? Any questions you want us to answer? You have 3 nutrition professionals here, you know, at your disposal. So if you want to ask questions, now would be a good time about anything we discussed today or anything at all.
So it looks like April, Professor Engel put her email address in there that any of you who won can send your email address to her if you didn't catch ours.
Perfect. Perfect, perfect.
Yeah, and I imagine they could also email their nutrition teacher if they're in a nutrition class, and they can get the information to us as well.
Absolutely. We're going to make it happen. We want to make sure you guys get your gifts. So make sure you get in contact with us. You have April's email. If you're my student, you have my email, but make sure you get in contact so that we can get you guys your gifts. All right. This actually ends the presentation, but we can definitely do a little bit of Q&A, a few minutes, if anyone has any questions.
That was awesome. Thank you, Chef Isaac. That was great.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I don't see any more questions, so I think we're done.
All right. Well, if you don't have any more questions, thank you, everyone. We will send out the recording link to you all if you guys want to watch it again or if you may have missed it. So be on the lookout for that. This is our last event for this semester, but we will be having some moving forward. We're in the discussion and the talks about that, but we will be having some more events for you guys. We will send out a survey soon too, so please complete the survey. It is helpful for us as we move forward to bring you guys more relevant, beneficial content. So we want to give you guys things, videos, you know, events, anything that can benefit you guys, any type of content. So make sure you guys keep your eyes peeled for that survey coming soon. Thank you guys very much. I had fun as always. Thank you.